And we're live. Welcome everyone to Sales TV Takeover, Women in Sales Spotlight Week. We're taking over. Welcome on LinkedIn and anywhere you're watching. I'm Shawn Karol Sandy. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of Sauce Agency, and I'm this week's guest host for today's episode. And I've invited my longtime good friend, super seller, international interstellar Dianna Geairn, the irreverent sales girl, but also a current salesperson, saleswoman, and with DevTech currently. And we're going to talk today about making moments that matter. Welcome, Dianna. I'm so happy to see you here. We have had a long history of sales talks and sales conversations. So welcome.
Thank you, Shawn. I'm so excited to be here. I think this is an incredibly relevant topic for sales today, in this macro environment, in the environment of, learning how to do conference calls really well, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So much has changed about sales. So I really hope that we can explore some ideas that give people a new idea for their toolbox to accelerate their pipelines.
Yeah, that's the idea. So today's topic is very intentional. It's probably a little bit selfish in that it's taking a page from what we like to say we do at Sauce Agency, which is we help our clients make moments that matter for their prospects, their customers, their employees, their community. And really, like RevOps optimization is what we do, but that's just a mouthful of words, and it doesn't mean anything until you actually make moments that matter. So when Sales TV came to us with this idea of guest hosting, and I said, let's talk about this because it's not just what we do. We want it to be a movement, thinking about changing the way we see customers, prospecting as, and even employees, the way we hire and treat employees as a movement of making moments that matter throughout every touch point. So we want it to be a movement. And I couldn't think of anyone better to invite to have this conversation with me than Dianna Geairn, because as long as we've known each other and talked about sales, you've never ceased to amaze me or surprise me about how you think through the sales process and think in your customer's shoes and are clever and creative about making moments that matter for them. So if you would give a little bit of background, a little bit of your sales background to our audience today, if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. So I have had a background mostly in financial services and technology sales, and just found that my jam was really mid-market to enterprise. Especially, I really love landing enterprise accounts. So that's what I found I was really great at. And as I started to sort of look at the common vernacular for what was out there about sales, especially in technology, I found that a lot of the practices were not really things that were helpful to the customer or the salesperson.
Right.
And sort of as the advocate for salespeople, I created a character called the Irreverent Sales Girl, and I started blogging. I just started on Facebook at the beginning, and then blogging about, what are the things that a sales expert can tell you who's really out there selling. And I love all my sales expert community. But a lot of them just hadn't been in touch with sales for a long time.
Right.
Actually, boots on the ground doing it. So that's what I created, and it just kind of led to this exploration of, how do you really make a difference in the sales pipeline? How do you make a difference for your customers, for your employees, as I think is really important, and then also for your colleagues at your organization that you work with, because every organization that really wants to grow, each person in the organization has to understand their role in sales and be acknowledged for that. So that's my background. I'm currently, thanks Adam. He says, the Irreverent Sales Girl, what a great title.
Great.
Yeah, it was fun. It was bringing a dash of dignity to the art of selling. So anyway, I now am lending my talents to an organization that I'm really passionate about, because they're on a journey right now to create it's DevTech that I work for, and they're out to create the DevTech wow experience. And we'll get into this a little bit, but I think, their focus on customer success is what's going to drive their ultimate success. And that's kind of where I'm starting to shift how you get innovative, is how you create that wow experience for your customers and your prospects.
Oh, I so agree. I love that, the dev tech wow experience.
Yeah.
It just, the dev tech wow experience dovetails directly with making moments that matter and making it a movement. And I think one of the things that you and I've always talked about is, like, you can't, it's really hard to be wow as a salesperson and create a wow experience, and then people leave your sphere. They go to maybe the demo phase, or they go to the production phase or delivery phase, and then it's like wah, wah, wah. Like, well, there's a disconnect. And that was one of the biggest reasons why, when at Sauce, we talked about making moments that matter, taking down the silos between marketing, sales, service, operations. It's to deliver across the entire organization, a continuum of experience for the customer, whether they're in the prospect stage or the customer, or referral, renewal, et cetera. And quite honestly, I believe, so having been in enterprise organizations and selling enterprise organizations, and now working with small mid-sized businesses, I can understand, the organization, the processes and systems, like the stuff you have to build to scale. That's what enterprise businesses do really well.
Yeah.
But we can't take the human out of it. And by delivering these touch points throughout the sales and service process of making moments that matter, this is really giving a competitive edge to smaller, mid-sized businesses that understand this and can execute it really well, to attract and compel prospects in that process to become, competitive, or to win business away from, say, if they're competing in an enterprise size market, or just competitors who are not getting it. It's a way to compete and be relevant.
Oh, I think that's exactly right. So one thing that you touched on that I want to highlight is, and one thing that I've really loved about what we've been doing with the WOW experience is, we've been very cross-functional, right? So we have people from pre-sales, we have people from marketing, we have people from service delivery, we have the customer success, like the people that are the service delivery people, and they're all in the same conversations about how you create a wow experience.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So one thing that's been so powerful, if you want to really look to how are you going to drive business in the short term and the long term, you really can start focusing on what is it that makes our customers really excited about what we're doing for them. How do we create moments that matter for our customers? So Satya Nadella, as you know, my favorite CEO in the whole world, Microsoft, said a few years ago, he said, customer success is the new sales.
Yeah.
And if you're selling into an enterprise account, a lot of times we look at a logo like a Verizon or a CVS. And what we don't realize is that it looks like one logo, but to them, they can be as many as 560 business units, right? So inside of your existing customers, you have many, many, many customers, right? So a lot of your prospecting should be focused on what else can we do for customers that already love us? How do we expand our MRR, our ARR in those accounts? And you have to be creating a wow experience, but then also, how do we create a wow experience for our partners and our alliances that are going to send us business? Right. And I think a lot of people focus too much on hunting. I mean, hunting new logos is super important. I'm not going to lie. We can talk about that all day, but I think, how do you make a really great experience for your partners and your network who is bringing you business? And if you just spent a couple quarters focusing on those two things, I think you could double your business.
Right. Okay. Well, in one of the things that's the theme along, focusing on the individual business units and the customers and the existing customers, is that compassion, that empathy of what their goals are, what they're trying to do, and that empathetic understanding of, it's not about me. This is a salesperson. No one, it's not about me. Like, they have, 15 salespeople knocking on their door, theoretically, or metaphorically, I should say, on their LinkedIn or inboxes every day. It's about them. So tell me, like, if you can give away, no trade secrets, but if you can give us some examples of whether it's the DevTech Wow experience, or I know you've got some hidden secrets in your back pocket. How have you shown people that you understand them or delivered a wow experience before in the sales process? Some good practical stuff.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, one of the reasons I started to focus on this so much, Shawn, was because of what we were doing with the Sellout Show. And you used to always talk about how it's important to like wrap your prospects and your customers up so that so they don't want to talk to anybody else, right?
Yes.
So what are some of the ideas that you can generate for yourself about how can you create that experience where they don't want to talk to anybody else? And mostly if you're having a great experience, you're lazy and you don't want to look for other opportunities. So that works in your favor. But, I think that there's a few things. The first one is that you really need to do your research. There's a lot of research out there. If you're selling enterprise customers, read the 10Ks. As you're reading this research, as you're reading the 10Ks, as you're reading and maybe listening to the investor calls that the CEO and CFO are directly talking about what's important, you have to start to hypothesize, how do those translate into KPIs for my buyer and the person that I'm talking to? And then as you hypothesize, what it'll do is it'll put you into a mindset. But then when you get in a conversation, shut up and listen, because everything that you've just read and researched is old news. Right. So it gives you the opportunity to create hypotheses and say, hey, Shawn, your CEO just said our core objective is to penetrate, to do digital transformation. Is that still relevant? And how are you judged against that goal? And how does that impact what you're supposed to be accomplishing on a day-to-day basis? But the thing I think that you really have to remember is we talk about how B2B sales, it seems like it's less emotional. It's not personal, right? It's not B2C.
Oh, right.
But I will tell you that you make the wrong decision about the ERP for your company, and it is a far more emotional situation than if you bought the wrong watch. So I'm just saying, the people that you're talking to have wives, they have children, they have career aspirations. They're trying to save for their retirement. They're taking care of their elderly parents. Their dog is sleeping next to them in the office now. All of these, you have to take into account that these people have real goals and ambitions. And what does that mean to their status with their family, with themselves, if they are successful? Which leads you to be able to tell the truth about the things that you're not able to help them do.
I love
that. Sales isn't just about getting a number on the board. Mm-hmm. It's about making a real difference, because those are the people that are going to stick with you and buy with you in the future.
Yeah. And I think, so I love, so if I had like a visual of what you said, it's really about saying, you take those business units and then you think about in context to like what the, what the quarterly report or the fiscal reports are saying, and you drill down and you just keep drilling down until you get to how does that impact this individual that I'm trying to have a conversation with? And one of the things that I love too about having this conversation with you is you're always curious, like get curious. Mm-hmm. And curiosity, when you're asking questions, leads to more questions, and not just, I'm going to jump in and respond, but be curious about how does that impact you this quarter? Or is that true? I think it's funny too, that curiosity means asking specific questions, and you have to do your homework to be able to drill down and get to those specific questions. And every day especially with being like the chief revenue officer at Sauce, I get bombarded emails every single day, and I respond and I play ball with a lot of salespeople because I'm always trying to learn about the sales process. Yeah. And I see these emails that are about, are you ready to crush your goals? I can help you kill it. And And like, I just want to be able to stop work and go home and eat dinner with my family as a business owner. So there's no empathy in that. I'm going to help you crush it or kill. There's no curiosity. They're not specifically thinking about me as a business owner or whatever. So I think that, being curious about your specific person, their role, and your customers, and being customer-centric is, like you said, it's the new playing field. Tell me about some of the ways you think AI is contributing or mucking up being customer-centric and leading with empathy and helping us improve the sales experience for customers and buyers. That's a big thing. You and I agree on. We need to improve the experience for people and elevate the profession of sales.
For sure, for sure. So I love this question. I think AI is going to play a very powerful role in our ability to focus more on our customers, because one of the things that AI will do is all the things that I hate to do, which is I can record a call with a customer.
Right.
Now, I can't do this right now because we're still waiting for walled gardens, and everybody needs to be really careful about this. If you're using AI to run a transcription and do a summary so that you can get it into your CRM, you need to make sure that you have a closed system that isn't
Right.
to the public. This is super important.
Right.
Especially, I mean, if you have an NDA in place and all of a sudden you're piping information about what your customers are talking about with you, this is a big problem. But what AI can help you do as you get these walled gardens is to summarize what it is that's happened. So that gets into the CRM. There is nothing more powerful about delivering a wow experience than knowing and remembering your customer all the way through. So it's really the hard work of planning and prepping your calls, but then doing the follow through and getting all that documentation in, like a doctor. Like, you want your doctor to know every little thing that's going on with you. You want your salesperson to really remember what you've talked about so you can drive forward. So AI will help with that. AI is doing great stuff. I'm using Copilot for Sales right now, and I know SalesLoft has some cool tools, and I'm sure there's more out there that direct you. What's the next step to take with this person? What was the next promise that you made? What showed up on LinkedIn that's a good trigger? You know, all these things that if you could keep track of them, you'd be a massively great salesperson because you'd know where to focus next. But all of those things aside, those are helpful. But I will tell you, I'm worried about and you can already see it in the AI that's coming out of what's generated by a human and what's not. Sometimes I'm sure there's really good stuff that you miss, but we'll get more tuned into what's real and what's fake. But if you use these other things to get the clutter out of the way and really then get down to an emotional, meaningful conversation with your customer or your prospect. And I'll tell you, one way to know that you've gotten there is that it's okay with them if you text them.
That's a good sign.
Hey, if they'll take my text, now we've bridged that barrier of salesperson. Now we're partners. So anyway, what do you think? I'm curious what you think about the role that AI plays in this world of sales.
I think it's incredibly interesting. And I always keep something, I don't know if you know Jill Rowley, she's now with HubSpot.
Yeah.
She said,
oh my God.
Oh, I know. She said something that burrowed its way into my brain, and I've never forgotten it. And I don't know if she originated this, but I certainly remember her saying it. A fool with a tool is still a fool. So AI, if you're using, a lot of times it depends on the prompts that you're using. You have to use smart prompts. You have to be able to interpret what AI brings out of the conversation. I can tell the fools with the tools because I get those emails on a daily basis. Yeah. That's especially funny, having just merged our organizations to a new business entity last year. So AI will go grab snippets of things that are out there and aggregate it and then spit out an email to me that's got my partner's name, my old business name, and it's like, oh, this is not cool. Oh, look, I just thought I was cool. So it's like, oh, okay, delete. So no one's going and checking. It's like no one's going and checking their work. And the crappy thing about it is that there's people that are like, oh, it's just a percentage of stuff. So we're okay with that. We're okay if we screw up, or it's just like, it's like the the negative part of the conversion. It's the stuff that doesn't convert. We're okay with that percentage of fail. But I'm never going to use your tool because you showed me how it doesn't work. It's like when I remember, I think you and I actually talked about this one time on our old sellout show. I received an email from a company trying to sell me on doing a demo for their video tool to use in the sales process. Ask me if there was a video in my email. No. So it's just like, there's good and there's bad. And, there is, so we use it a lot actually in different aspects for our clients. So from the digital marketing piece of it, helping understand the personas and what drives them, to then how do we leverage that in the sales conversations and lead magnets and resources and all the kinds of stuff. But you still have to apply the human empathetic understanding of it. I will tell you one of the most powerful tools that I'm using in my sales journey. And let me also just say, as the CRO of a growing and scaling company, I still do cold calls, because
Sure.
if
Yeah.
I'm going to talk the talk and build strategies and train people, I better walk the walk and make sure the stuff works. But we use a predictive persona tool so that before I reach out and try to have a conversation, I'm going to know, where are they on the disc? Are they an analyst? Do they want case studies and numbers? Or are they an influencer, an I personality, and they want, metaphors and enthusiasm? Or are they a D? They're the captain. So there are a lot of great ways to leverage it in the sales process to make people feel understood, to make your prospects feel like you get them and you are empathetic. And it's not necessarily manipulative, it's just tuning into them. And then you're able to, meet them where they are with some curiosity. So
I think that's so exciting. Yeah. Anything that you can do to get yourself more in your prospects or your customers' world. I mean, I don't have the time to become a psychologist and know how to break down somebody's, online persona that helps me communicate with them more effectively. I would love if somebody took the time to figure that out about me before they got on if they start talking numbers, I'm like, but you start talking good ideas.
Yeah.
But I think also the one thing that AI is going to do for us, so we're just at the beginning for sure. The one thing that it's going to do for us is unlock what we like to talk about so much, is your natural genius. So, Shawn and I have shared some ideas here today, but what's going to really make your job sing is to give yourself the permission to make a lot of mistakes and, make sure you're in an organization that allows you to make mistakes. And if you're not, you should probably go find one. I always say 13 big mistakes a year, which has helped me really scale some great business, but also, unlock your own natural genius. Try some stuff. You've got it inside of you.
Yeah, it's hard, I think, especially for the next generation of salespeople coming up, and to look around and think, okay, well, what mistakes can I make? And so if you're a sales leader, if you're here and you're on this and you're a sales leader, help grow and encourage your sales team members, especially the up and coming ones, to make mistakes. Let them know where those boundaries are. Do it. What did Jill Conrath call it? That we use this in one of our keynotes, a pre-mortem. Do a pre-mortem. What's the worst thing that can happen? It works with a lot of young people, from coaching, girls in volleyball to Girl Scouts to fresh out of college recruiters and such. And they think that they should automatically be good at something, and making mistakes is really scary. So you have to let people know where the boundaries are and what's going to happen if you make a mistake. What's the worst thing that can happen? So that that's how you discover new things, is by potentially screwing up. So that's a great way to suggest that. And the other thing, the flip side of this too, is we're touching a little bit on making moments that matter for your team members. So as a salesperson, rarely is it ever you're going to, many of you out there have sales teams that are, divided and segmented into BDRs and account executives, et cetera. You have to make moments that matter in the employee experience too, handing off to build trust, to build a continuum of experience for your customers, means that you have to make those moments that matter for your team members too. I know there's some ways to do that. Do you have any insights as to ways to connect with your team members and create a wow experience for them along?
Yeah, for sure. I just think that organizationally, you need to have it. We have a system called high fives, where it's a public, you can give a public high five to a person. And I think the thing to remember is a salesperson gets a commission. Everybody else gets paid what they were going to get paid anyway. So make sure that you do things that acknowledge them in a meaningful and, even if possible, public way. I think you froze up, Shawn. Okay, so I think we're at the end of this idea. I think that if Shawn were here to finish us off, she would say, you know, let's definitely combine ourselves as a community to find different ways that make moments that matter so that it drives our pipelines and our customer experience.
Dianna, that was fantastic. Yes, somehow we lost Shawn. Sorry for that. How can people get in touch with you? How can they learn more?
Yeah, so I'm always happy to talk with anyone. The best place to find me is LinkedIn. So it's Dianna Geairn, Geairn, and you know, ask to connect, but make sure you include a note about why you want to connect, because I like to connect with people that I want to have conversations with. So that's the best way, Rob. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being a part of this. To our audience, we will have a podcast. We will have a newsletter where you can find contact information for both Dianna and Shawn. And I just wanted to say you can also find us at SalesTV.live to follow up on any of these others. Dianna, thank you so much. This has been a fantastic conversation. To our audience, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Rob. Bye.